Loud. Okay, cool.
Great.
So, hey, Brie.
Hey, Anne, how are ya?
So, thank you for doing this interview. It's really awesome. So, why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do and who you are and what you care about? That'd be really awesome. And then I'll just ask you some questions, and you can just answer. Um, it's unscripted. You can just answer however you like.
Okay. All right. So, let's see. I'm Brie, and what I do for work is I help people in the realm of healthcare. And currently, I work online using telemedicine with people all over the world. And primarily, I focus on people who have problems with their gut health and digestion, or problems with their hormones, or their mood, or sleep, things like that. And I do that using, my modality is called functional medicine. It's essentially a natural version of medicine. And we use labs and get all sciencey, but basically help people find solutions to their problems.
And mostly you work with women around gut, digestion, hormone balancing, that kind of.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
A lot of women's health, and it all stems from the gut. So
yeah, it does.
It does.
It's all about your gut. So, we've been working for a while, and we just finished a project together. So, tell people what it was like, kind of when you came to work with me. I know you were feeling a particular way, and things were going a particular way. Why don't you just kind of, without calling anybody out particularly, but describe what it was like before we started working together.
Okay. So I would say that marketing, and in particular identifying my message, has always been a place that I would constrict. It definitely brings up fear. As many times that I've redone a website or, whatever my marketing material is, it's just every time it's a big challenge, and it just, makes me want to freeze and flee. So I've had a couple of experiences where I did seek out help around either branding, marketing, messaging, copy, all of those things with other people. And I had a couple of okay experiences. One that was kind of just like underwhelming, like I just didn't feel like they got me. And then, but it wasn't bad per se. And then I had two experiences that were just kind of like utter nightmares. It all broke down in the end. And so I was left feeling kind of at a point like, oh my gosh, I, really want someone to be able to help me with this, but I really don't think there's anyone out there who can do it. And in particular, the story that I had was that the field I'm in is very particular and scientific and complex. And I'm always going for kind of the intersection of that so that people can understand the technical aspects, but kind of have it in relatable language. And sometimes as the practitioner, it's a little bit forest for the trees. We can't always really truly step into the patient's point of view because we're so immersed in the science.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're very smart. I tell you, oh my God, she's so smart. She's so brilliant. She knows all this stuff. And then I'm like, how do we make it like me, like a 3-year-old can understand it?
How do we make it fun and relatable and real? And so that's where you came in. That's where Anne came in because it was just, honestly, it's been such a relief to work together. If I had to say one word, it's been a relief. I have felt nothing but help every step of the way. And I am not the easiest client.
Oh.
I'm a fun.
Well, when you are as good at what you do as you are, and that you've been accomplished, and you're very, you're always raising the bar on your business and on people that work with you. And, when we first started working, you knew exactly what you wanted and how you wanted it, right? It was cool. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. What was it like to kind of have someone like me who kind of brings a little more innovation to the actual words, or kind of super creative thinking.
Yeah.
And not that you aren't creative, because I know you are as well, but I know that you also have a very practical, a very linear.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very rational.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I loved it when you gave me a spreadsheet. I was like, oh my God, she made a spreadsheet.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's like left brain, right brain. And the funny thing is, underneath all of that detail and kind of like dissection and precision, there's also this like, I'm an impression person. So I have an appreciation of the arts and, the impressions. And so you're perfect because, I mean, it was kind of like a collaborative painting. I think about it like that. And I guess in particular with like the nuances of language, and so what I mean by that is that, I might say something a certain way, and then you would come in with these different words that I was like, oh yeah, that's the word, or that word is much more colorful or alive, it's going to land differently. And so it's kind of like if you ever go shopping with a girlfriend and you know that you're going to pick out like the 5 things for yourself that are predictably the same cut, or maybe the same color, or the same kind of like thing that you would safely always wear or buy. Go with someone else and they're like, hey, why don't you try this? And you're like, oh, I never would have picked that off the rack for myself, but actually, man, that is killer. Like that's like my new favorite top or whatever. So it's kind of like that. Just getting a little bit more me in my languaging through, your eyes and vision. So
Yeah, we had a really what I consider, when I work with my clients, it is very creative. It's very synergetic. It's like you'll say ta 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 ta, and I'll go, oh, how about ta ta? And you'll go, oh, let me try, or oh, how about this? And then we kind of go back, we bat it back and forth until we actually honed in on exactly the expression of you.
Definitely. Yeah. And that was the most helpful, was just being able to kind of throw the things back and forth. That was so great. It's like I could have a kind of general concept starting place, and then you would, kind of infuse it with what you saw. And then it was great because then I could look at that and go, okay, well, that's kind of on the right track. And this one, like, there's something about it I like, but actually if we could change this a little bit. And so it was just, I mean, that was awesome because it's like, for me, I get that clarity, in really kind of doing that, having that reflection and kind of throwing it back and forth. And you always you have this really innate gift for being able to kind of like come at something from a totally different angle and like rethink it and just either word it in a totally different perspective or kind of relate it to something else so that it really lands, especially if it's kind of abstract. So,
yeah, some of our concepts or things that we do are, they sound great to us, but they're big theories, right? Big theories. And then I'm like, oh,
yeah.
What does that mean to me as a individual? Like, what am I going to get?
Yeah. What am I going to get? How is it going to feel? Why does it matter? In like 2 out breaths.
Exactly. In like 2 sentences or less.
Sound bites, like your power. I call them like my sound bites. They're like the things. They're like 3 words or 5 words that are just like a thematic statement. That's just boom. Here's the thing. And you have this like really great way of teasing that out and just identifying like, that's the thing.
Yeah, and now they're like your sound bites, right? Yeah. They're like Dr. Brie's sound bites.
Yeah.
Boopity boopity boop.
Yeah.
And uniquely, they belong to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also appreciated that like doing this really fit into, I have a very busy schedule, I'm running a business, I'm doing all the things just like we all are. And, that was a big, I remember when we first started talking, I was kind of freaking out like, Anne, I don't know if I can like power this out in the next 2 weeks or, I'd love that idea, but I don't think it's going to happen. And you were just right there with me. You're like, okay, you kept me on schedule, you kept me on track. So we moved through it. We got it. We did the thing. But it worked with, what I needed to do. So.
Yeah, it worked with your life, with your schedule. Because, I like to get everybody in a big schedule because it's difficult for me.
Yeah.
To stay on schedule, right? So I like to do that. Here's all your times and here's all your dates. But someone like you who does travel and, you'll have a flood of clients or certain things will be happening and you'll be like, hey, I just can't get to it this week. Then we shift, we're able to shift it up a little bit so it works.
while still keeping us on track and like, you know, without losing kind of the flow of
Yeah, we don't really lose the flow or the momentum so much. We can breathe, however.
yeah.
I think there's been a couple times when you're like, wow, I just didn't get to it. And you're really a pretty good implementer. And I'd be like, okay, sister, well, you know, take a breath.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're totally great like that. So that was a really helpful, just kind of having that that attitude in the background.
So now you have everything written and everything that you need for your website.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I do. So I'm excited. So now we're just getting the visual parts tied together. And you had some great recommendations there too. You've had some really good, you know, just like conceptual feedback also. So that was like more than I bargained for, and I love it.
Yeah. You know, I can't help myself with all that graphic background and all that. I'm like, you know, I used to think that, but what I think now is this, right? I'm always like iterating, you know, iterating to awesome constantly. So, you know, is there anything else, if somebody came to you and said, hey, Brie, you know, like, why should I work with Anne over someone else? Because you had a lot of different experiences with other types of marketing branding people.
Totally.
What would you say?
I would say that it doesn't have to be difficult and it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think that was the essence of how working with you felt. Because you know, especially when we're entrepreneurs, we get really attached to what we do and how we describe it and that whole thing. And, you know, so I think that for a lot of people have the experience of it being challenging to know how to convey distinctly what we do and have it be powerful and meaningful, right, to the person that we're here to serve. And so in the process of trying to whittle that down with some other people, I sometimes got spun out into all these exercises that were like really, you know, kind of fun in the sense that it's self-reflective, but a little too much backstory and a little bit too much of kind of like psychoanalysis. And while I think there's a great time and place and value to that, it was just great to like get it done. Like you and I hammered this out and maybe, you know, I don't know, it was like maybe 2 months, basically, like the better part of 2 months.
2-3 months.
Right. Uh-huh. And you got enough of an understanding of who I was and what mattered to me as a person, and then how that came through, like what I choose to do for work and what matters to me in the work and all of those thoughts, and basically just kind of almost intuitively extrapolate the essence of that message out that way. So it just made it a lot simpler. And that,
yeah, I think it sometimes it appears intuitive.
yeah.
You know how that works, right? In your own business is the same way, right? Years and years of experience, but it looks like, and it becomes so simple because it appears so intuitive. And there is a methodology.
Yeah.
And there is, you know, I've spent and continue to spend a lot of time working on personal stories and what people are really ultimately the essence of what they're really about. Right?
There's science to it, you know.
I mean, you can take that and apply it to, you know, your brand, your business, your visuals, all that.
Yeah.
Stuff, all that pretty stuff.
Yeah. No, it's like science and symbol and, you know, yeah, the different ways that you can really kind of, you know, get to that essence of someone's purpose. And yeah.
Awesome. So anything else? Plus I got a little doctoring on the side, you know. I got a little doctor advice, which is always good.
Yeah, totally. What else? No, I think you're really gifted at what you do, and I think you're very experienced, and I think the combination of those things, and that you really care about wanting it to be right, like because it's satisfying to you. Like besides, you know, you want me to be happy, but also like if it wasn't quite right, it was almost like it kind of was like a little nails on the chalkboard until it kind of clicked. So
yeah, so we just keep going at it and revising and tweaking it until it lands and it's perfect.
Yeah, so I just
have a little perfectionist in me.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, love. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the expression on the website
I can't wait to show it to you.
of
Yeah.
all the pieces. Yeah, it'll be great. And thank you so much for this mini interview. It's kind of the first one I've done,
Cool.
and I just think it's fun
I
to.
know this is really fun. Well, I hope it's full of good stuff. And if there's anything else that, if there's any other way that I can help, or if there's anything you didn't get, that we can do, I'm here for that. 'Cause I love working with you. It was great.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love working with you too. So we're gonna have to find some other ways we can do that.
absolutely. Totally. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much. I am going to look for the stop glasses. I love this glasses thing.
Oh my gosh, I love your